Hello everybody, this is CJ, your local friendly technology addict here, and you're watching the Tech Addict's Attic. I'm sorry it's been so long since I've done a video. I've had a pretty hectic life the past couple of months, and needless to say, I haven't had time. But one good thing about not having time for anything is that if you can keep your hands busy, if you can keep them tied up with something, your nails wind up growing out. A couple of you have commented on my nail biting, and of course I have my reasons, but one thing has happened. We went away for a while, and I had a backpack on my back for a good amount of time, and I spent the time with my hands up to my chest, holding the straps on there most of the time. And if I wasn't holding the straps, I was holding my kid's hand, or I was lifting my kid up over my head so that they could see better. So keeping my hands busy, I wound up getting them out of my mouth, and this is about, let's see, yeah, that's about a month's growth, come to think of it, right at a month. Anyway, what we're here to do is replace that, but I'm also going to replace the speaker behind here, because when it fell and shattered that, the speaker, actually, you know what, this is even worse than it was before, because I dropped it again, if you can believe that. Funny enough, the plastic didn't shatter, so maybe they should start making these things out of plastic. But I digress. So, to replace this, you don't need to take the cover off. But when I dropped the phone, I actually damaged the speaker as well. It doesn't work right anymore. So I requested Blackview to send me a replacement speaker as well, and they did. Well, I'm not going to show you my address and all that, but I've already opened the package, and inside, not a whole heck of a lot. Okay. We have the speaker, and we have the camera glass. Now, this I have not opened, and they packed it pretty voluminously, I guess. I can't think of the right word. Words elude me right now. There we go. Found it. They packed it pretty good. It's almost like they wrapped the whole thing in packing tape, but that's not what happened. It's just the way the envelope is made. And I'm doing my best not to pinch the bubble wrap too hard, because I certainly don't want to break the brand new camera glass. So I'm going to pause the video while I break into this thing, because, good lord, it's like the whole thing is just packing tape. So there's our speaker. And there's our camera glass. They sent me two. That was nice of them. I don't need two. I wonder if they're the same, or maybe that one looks like it's got something. That may just be the wrapper. That may be the packaging that's got damaged. But anyway, they sent me a spare, and look at that. I got two of these things. Now these aren't protected or anything, so they're just out there. But basically, what we're going to wind up doing is scraping off all of this. I'll probably clean it with some isopropyl alcohol, and then we'll apply these. And usually you'll apply one side, flatten it down, let it set for a minute, peel back the second layer, and then you'll apply one of these. And then speaker looks like it's got a similar adhesive ring around it. Not exactly big, not exactly a lot of surface area there. And I gotta admit, I've never seen a speaker like this. Let me see, can we focus on it? Yeah, of course now it's not going to focus. I turned off my autofocus, or turned off my manual focus, went auto, because manual doesn't work right anyway. This LG is a piece of crap, I swear. Anyway, I've never seen a speaker made like this. I've seen similar ones, but not that big. They were always smaller ones. So what we're going to do is, of course, I'm going to turn off the phone first. We're going to remove these screws on the sides. That'll take the side pieces off, and then that will allow me to, after I unscrew all of these here on the back, I'll be able to peel the back off because the sides won't be holding anything on. You can see how it's got that kind of a contour there, and I do not know for a fact, but I believe that that contour is going to get in my way. We'll find out soon enough. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and start taking some screws out. Now, to do these screws, I have a, not that you would be able to see it, but that is a T5 bit, Torx number 5, and that will fit very nicely. It's actually got just a little bit of free play, but a 6 is way too big for the screw. I think maybe it's 5.5 actually, but I don't have a bit in between. Or maybe it's just me being an old man and not being able to really tell what I'm working with here. Certainly it works well enough. But I just wanted to share that it is a T5 that I'm using, and it looks like the ones on the back might possibly be a T6. Nope. I guess it's just the way the light hits them. Screws on the side are just a little bit darker, just like a half shade darker it looks like. But again, I'm an old man. It could be my eyes playing tricks on me, right? Also, another little trick that I've developed, and I'm sure that I'm not the only person who's come up with this. When I did my Galaxy Note 4 some time back, I had photocopies of the phone, and I actually developed the technique when taking apart a Samsung Galaxy Tab 3 a few years ago. And what you do is it's best if you have a photocopy, because then you can get exact placements, but this will do well enough. Obviously this is the back of the phone, and obviously I can't draw for crap because the camera, it doesn't have any room up there. But you take your screw, punch it into the paper, and now you know which screw went where. It's not such a big deal on this phone because all 8 screws going around the side I suspect are identical, but we'll find out, of course. But as long as I put them where they go on the paper, I've got an exact note of where they belong on the phone, and I can make sure that even if they are different, they all go back in the same place. 1 down, 7 to go. Now, something to take note of is that if you are going to do your own repair work on your phone, you best know what you're doing, because you're going to void your warranty if you're not certified by the manufacturer to do the repair work that you're doing. And if you're a member of the Blackview forums, you've probably seen the Blackview admin tell many a person, hey, you take your phone apart, you void your warranty. So here's the thing. Here's a question I have. When I first contacted Blackview about the problem that I had with the compass, their solution that they offered to me was that I would take it to a local repair facility, which of course Blackview does not have where I live. So we're talking just a standard iFixit or whatever. And then they would pay me back for the cost of the repair. Okay, well, if that's what they're going to recommend, then how do they know, aside from me sending them an invoice, how do they know that I actually took it somewhere and that I didn't do it myself? And for that matter, how do they know if I made up an invoice or if the invoice is from a legitimate business? I don't know. So I don't really see any difference between me taking it apart and a repair shop taking it apart, with the exception that the repair shop may arguably have a technician doing the work who is more experienced in this particular model than I am. I'll guarantee you the guy locally has never seen a Blackview BV9500Pro before. In fact, there's a good chance he's never seen a Blackview phone before. He may never have even heard of it. He or she. Don't want to be insensitive. So, again, I'm right back to, I don't see a difference between a local repair tech taking my phone apart or myself taking my phone apart. Now, I'm at a point where I need to take these off. I've got the screws out, but I don't have a good spot to, oh, there we go, just got it. Look at that. If this LG would ever focus on anything, oh my God, come on. There is something wrong with this LG, I'm telling you. It is the biggest piece of, oops, I'm losing buttons here. So that is something to be, oh, to be careful of. Fortunately, the buttons, if it mattered where they go, they'd be labeled, and they are labeled. Wow, that's actually, I know this thing's not going to focus on it, but this piece is actually machined. Let's see if it'll do it this way. On the left-hand side there, you can see the machining marks to the left of that little nubbin in the center. And this actually has heft. I mean, it doesn't even feel like aluminum. I'm sure it is, but it's got more heft to it than I would expect aluminum to have. There we go. It's in there. Actually have it around 180. It shouldn't matter how it goes in, but actually it does fit a lot more easily one way than it does another. So that's something to be mindful of. If yeah, definitely it fits better going one way. Ah, look at that. So when you take yours apart, if you do, and of course my LG is not going to focus on it, so I'm going to have to describe it. This piece right here, the volume down button, is almost, it's got rounded corners, but it's still got a flat side over here. Over here, it's got beveled corners. Those are very clearly 45 degrees to the sides, and then 45 degrees to the tip. So it's a side, a side, a side, a side, and a side. Whereas on the volume up button, it's actually round. Okay? And then this side is pretty flat with barely rounded corners, just like the volume down. So in the center between these two, they're both basically the same, but the volume down button has more of a trapezoidal or arrowhead kind of a shape to it, and the volume up has a semicircle shape to it. The push to talk button is just plastic, which makes sense. It's easier for them to mold a colored piece like this in the color than it is to paint it, and it'll look better too. And the push to talk button has a nubbin in the middle. I know it's hard to see, and it matches a nubbin on the middle of the plastic button, and it all fits perfectly when you get it in right. I'm going to make sure that I don't lose my screw here, because I've noticed I popped it out. That's the one reason I prefer making a photocopy, is because office paper is thicker than notebook paper and little notepad paper. So there's your waterproofing. It's all rubber sealed. And when I push on this, I can feel there's a button inside getting depressed. So I know that this is the waterproof seal, this rubber here. Let's see if we can get this other side off. Oh yeah, easily enough done. And now I'm ready for it, so I'm going to hold the side down, or facing down, as I peel it back from the phone. And you don't lose your buttons that way. If you never lose your buttons, you don't have to worry about fitting them back in. Alright, now I'm going to take the back screws off. Now the other thing is, I don't know if I need to take my SIM card out to remove the back. So I'm going to go ahead and do so, just for good measure. I'm using a 3.5 millimeter flathead for this because the next size up, I think a 4.0, is just a little too big. And in fact, the 3.5 doesn't feel quite right either. But apparently it is. Appears that it is. My main thing is I hate flathead screwdrivers. I hate flathead screws because the screwdrivers, even if you get the right one, if you're not really careful with it, you'll wind up popping the head off of the screw, out of the screw, and popping the head of the screwdriver off of the head of the screw, I should say, because they both have a head. And I don't like this, how hard it is to pry this open. I always feel like I'm going to break it. Well, look at that. My SIM card wasn't even in there right. You know, that probably, I've never had this open since the fall. That probably happened when it fell. And yet, funny thing is, as I have had zero troubles with signal, no troubles with my call quality or anything. So, even with that thing not latched properly, it was still making good enough contact. Now, that's not a proper nano SIM either. This is a micro SIM that I've cut down with an X-Acto knife. If you're very, very careful, you can do it and still retain the outer ring so that you can still use it as a micro SIM if you needed to go back to your old phone, like this LG I'm recording this with. Alright, so these screws are all loose. I'm going to see if I can't pop them out of here. Okay, so all 8 of the side screws are out, all 4 of the back screws are out. Now it's just a matter of figuring out how to pop the case apart. Now what I see here, I should probably go and look at YouTube on another device, but what I see here is a seam right where my fingernail is, and you can see it going all the way around the rubber into the plastic. I had not picked up on the fact that that was a seam. I thought it was a molding line from the rubber, but having the sides off, I can see that that's definitely not a molding line. That is definitely a seam. And I'm just going to hey look, I've got fingernails now, I can do this. But I'm still gonna, actually I may not need to go get a spudger. Although I really don't want to lose my fingernails over something so so let me go get the right tool and I'll be right back. Really don't want to use a metal one. The funny thing about this, you know, if you buy a brand new car, it's all nice and shiny. You do your best to keep that car nice and clean and neat. And I think I would be the same way, but I want to get me a Jeep. And I think if I were to get me a Jeep, I wouldn't be too concerned with it looking a little bit busted up after a few years, because that's kind of what they're for, right? If you ain't busting it up, you ain't using it right. And I am going very slowly with this. I am taking my time, because it's been a long time since I've seen a YouTube video on how to take one of these phones apart, and it was in Russian, and I don't speak or understand Russian. I have a colleague who does, but he's not Russian. He's absolutely taking his time. Get it? Yeah. I've got kids, so you get to hear the dad jokes. And it just occurred to me that you can't see what I'm doing here, other than destroying my guitar pick spudger. And it's not even a guitar pick, but you know what I'm talking about. But this is actually the front getting pried away from the rear. Or is the rear getting pried away from the front? Oh, the rear is getting pried away from the front. So I'm doing my best not to crack the screen while I'm at it, because this thing took 6 weeks to get to me. And at that, it even says airmail. 6 weeks. I can't imagine how long I'd wait for the screen. Alright, so rather than letting you guys sit there and wait and wait and wait, I'm going to pause the video, and I'm just going to gradually keep going around, very slowly, very methodically, very carefully, until I get this thing popped open. So I found the trick is in the bottom, where you have the battery charging port. You'll need the metal one. And you pry up inside there very carefully, and eventually you'll pop it. You'll pop it where those retention points are. Being very careful here, I don't want to pop anything loose that I shouldn't be. I don't see anything in there except a single ribbon cable going from one end of the phone to the other, which I do recall seeing on one of the videos. So I'm just going to very carefully continue prying all the way around. So I'm having some difficulty getting the thing fully apart, and the only thing I can figure is I've still got a screw right in the top there holding the antenna cover on. So I'm going to take that screw out, and I'm going to leave the antenna cover on the screw so that it's obvious where it belongs. Oh, look at that. I'm glad I didn't keep prying. That's exactly what it was, that antenna screw. Antenna cover screw, I should say. Alright, so here's the inside of our Blackview phone. And I'm about to reach the maximum file size for this video, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it, and we'll pick up in part 2. Stay tuned.